All right. So let's see. I think it started. So basically the question, excuse me, the question was if you're talking to people and you are trying to get them to set up appointments, correct? And
Yeah.
they're basically they don't seem interested when you're asking them. Is that
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So there's a really, really good audio about the way that you're perceived by people around you. Okay. And that's just because of the nature of the fact that you have not been doing this for very long. It's not a personal attack on you. It's just why in the
Mhm.
hell would they trust you with their money? Right. You've
Right.
not been doing this at all. So you're the fellow mom in the stands at the basketball game, right? And now all of a
Mhm.
sudden you come and say, I want to talk to you about your insurance. They're like, gross. No, that sounds horrible. I don't want anything to do with it. And it's not because they don't like you or they don't
Right.
value in it. It's not because of any of that. It's because you're not that person to them, right? You are the mom in
Mhm.
the bleachers, not the insurance person. That's fine. So there's two things that I would do. Number one, on the actual appointment, or sorry, when you get their number, Nate was talking about this last night to Tammy actually. When you're talking to them, be like, hey, I'm super excited. I started this thing on the side. Um, I'll like I'd love to introduce you to my friend Kelly, my friend Dan, whoever. And let me get your number. I'll tell you a little bit more about that. And just try don't try to. It's a free financial needs thing and blah 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 blah. They're like, what are you talking about?
Right.
No idea.
Yeah.
No clue. Um, so that's I would say first off, like just less words, less words when you're talking to somebody. Just, hey, I
Yeah.
started a new job. I'm really excited about it. Like this is gonna be awesome for me and my family. Like that's it. And then like get them to talk about it, right? Oh, do you like working here? Oh yeah. Do you like your job? No, I don't. I don't make enough money. Great. My friend Kelly's hiring. She's looking for great people. Let me get your number. I'll give it to her. And then you give her Kelly's also. And then let them communicate. That'll
Okay.
help. The other thing is don't like when they're like, oh, what is it? Like, oh, can you tell me about it? No, I'm not licensed yet. Actually, I'm not allowed to talk really a whole lot about it. It's for my training. Um,
Okay.
and my trainer is going to be there and they'll tell you everything about it. And never, ever, ever tell them they don't have to buy because then they're going to come not expecting to buy anything. And even if it makes sense, they won't. I'm just from experience, like if you tell people like, oh yeah, it's just for my training, you don't have to buy anything. Don't like that is suicide of that appointment because,
Right.
or you're like imploding that appointment because they're not, yeah, they're just not
Yeah. That
gonna,
was.
you already
That
said
was.
that, yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry. Sorry. That was just for me. It was
No,
just
you're good.
Mary that I was talking to about that. But like after she
Okay.
cringed, I was like, I'm definitely saying something wrong. Oh.
Yeah, so you're trying to like give a haircut over the phone, like it just
Right.
doesn't really work. Um,
Yeah.
like really, really, really difficult to it's really difficult to set up an appointment in person and then not say more about what you're doing. Like
Mhm.
I'm I'm pretty good at it just because I've done it enough, but it like I just, hey, what time's good for you? Thursday at 5. Awesome. We'll talk about that then. Completely change the subject. Yeah, your kid's doing awesome. What are you guys like? What have you guys been doing to help them with practice? You know what I mean? Like just
Right.
so hard to shift the question, but I wouldn't even do that right now. I would just get the number and then call them. Hey, this is Angie from basketball. We talked the other day. You were looking for extra income. Yeah. Okay, cool. Hey, I want to get you on the calendar with my friend Kelly. What's good for you today or tomorrow? And then just book the appointment because then it's not weird. Like you're in your element. Like another thing I do is I actually do this a lot at the gym. When they're like, well, what do you do exactly? I'm like, yeah, I do finances, like insurance, investments, stuff like that. Nothing crazy. I'd love to talk to you more about it, but I just don't really like talk about it while I'm at the gym. Like this is kind of my time to get away from that. And they respect that because they also go there to get away from their
Right.
job. And so you kind of put that boundary up, which gives you the space because you always want to play on your home court, right? You don't want to be the visiting team and not know what's
Mhm.
going on. You want to be in your house
Right.
with your screen and your camera and your setup and be able to share everything. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's
Anything
helpful.
else?
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Any other questions, guys? How can I help you guys? David, make sure you call Regional Licensing Center 48 times today and tell them that you need to get appointed. Just you need
Yeah,
to
I
squeak the wheel.
already called them. They don't open till 8:30.
Perfect. Yeah, call them at like 8:31 and then again at 8:45 and just seriously like like, hey, I know I talked to you at 8:45. It's noon. I just want to see if you have any updates. They will get so freaking annoyed with you. That event they'll do. I promise you, they will push it through. Like I'm telling you from experience, they will push it through. All right. What other questions you guys got?
Morning.
Is there a lively bunch this morning? All right, let's see. So, oops, did not mean to draw that. Hang on. So I wanted to. What is happening? Hang on. All right, guys. So I was just talking about this Dunning-Kruger effect with the people on the Redeemers call in the morning. But I'm going to talk to you guys about that this morning because when a lot, like I think y'all would agree, when you come in and you get on a couple of training appointments, this is your skill set over here / your perceived skill set. So how good you feel like you are at the business, your excitement level, etc., is all on the left. And this is your time involved. This isn't anything, right? This is in basketball, Rocket League, whatever. It doesn't matter, right? Like this is your tree cutting business, Kelly, whatever it is. You like at first you have a little bit of success, right? You're like, oh my gosh, this is so good. Like I'm so good at this business, I'm gonna make $1 million, right? You're like, I'm gonna be $1 million earner in Primerica. We go on one freaking appointment and close one thing. And Amber, you're like, yes, this is it. I'm gonna be a millionaire, right? You're like, this is gonna happen for me. Then you realize that sometimes it's a little bit harder than we think. Like we figure out like, dang, the mute button's hard to press, right? Sometimes I can't figure out how to share my screen. I won't talk to people outside of my one person that I've talked to. And we just get into these situations where all of a sudden we're like stuck and we don't know what to do. And then we realize like, okay, maybe I'm not that good at the business, and you're not. I'll just tell you, you're not. It's okay. Because you have to develop the skill, right? You didn't just like Michael Jordan didn't just show up one day as the best basketball player on the court. He had to put in the work to get better, right? So as we go through this Dunning-Kruger effect, guys, what happens is you think you're really good and then you get flipped upside down. You're like, oh shit, right? You're like, crap, I'm not very good. And what happens, Amber, is at the bottom, this right here is where people make the decision to quit. But the reality is you're no better than you were when you started. So you're just as good as you were when you started, but you've been on 3 appointments and now you're like, okay, I can do this. But you get kicked back to the bottom because you've never had to experience that failure because you were holding somebody's hand the whole time. But now you're by yourself and you have to figure it out. It's just like when you were riding a bike, right? How many of you guys know how to ride a bike without training wheels? Hopefully everybody, right? Well, when you first rode that bike the very, very first time, I would venture to guess that you probably fell a few times because you thought you were really good, right? Your bike riding skills, you thought you were really good. You had the training wheels on, and then your mom or dad took the training wheels off, and you're like, okay, I actually suck at this. And it hurts when I fall, and there's trees everywhere. Who put the tree in the middle of the sidewalk, right? And then over time, you start going a little bit further, and then you go a little bit further, and then you go a little bit further, and all of a sudden, you're like riding up and down mountains, and it's not that you weren't never good at riding your bike. We all started at the same place, but you put in the effort to get here. You kept getting on the bike. You kept showing up. Guys, it's not that I'm better than you or that anybody that you see with a ring or any of these RVPs are better than y'all at this business. It's that they set 2 or 3 appointments every day, right? They show up on the weekends. They do what they need to do. They never miss a meeting. Their person quit, but they kept coming. Like they failed their test 3 times, but they kept showing up. And all of a sudden they're hitting these little leadership milestones. They're getting 100K, right? Up here. Oh my goodness, they're at 200K. It's really not that far beyond 100,000. Guys, you're down here making $0 in Primerica because you don't have the skill set. Yeah, I'm not saying 0, but relatively, let's say you're making 10,000 a year here, just as a part-time thing. You're not very good yet, but you're good enough to make 10 grand. the good thing of that is if you can make 10 grand, you can make $1 million. Just being real. You just got to get better, right? You know how to do it. Your skill set just needs to get better. So now you start getting a little bit better, guys. And then you come along here and you realize like, okay, this journey to like 25,000 has some work I have to put in right here. Right. And you're like, oh crap, I actually got to work. And then we quit. Right. And that's honestly, like, I'm just telling you the truth. Like, Amber, that's where people quit, is when they realize that they actually have to do something. Like, oh, I can't just show up and like people follow me. No, because you have a bad attitude and you don't dress good. Like, you don't dress nice at all. Like, your hair you look like a bum, right? You talk horrible to people and you treat them rude. No, they're all going to quit. And that's when you quit too, is when you realize like, oh crap, I got to make some changes. That's, and not you, Amber, hopefully that you're not going to quit, but that's where like people realize like, okay, well, maybe this isn't for me. No, it's not that it's not for you. It's that you don't want to get better. So you're going to be stuck here forever. That's the lid of your business. And we've talked about this, guys, the law of the lid, John Maxwell's law of the lid. If we say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you get the point, 7, 8, 9, and a 10. So if this is your leadership level right here in the red and the green, excuse me, if your leadership level's in the green, guys, and that's the scale, but you're only a 3 on your leadership, for some of y'all, that's hard to hear, that maybe I'm not the best leader that I thought I was, right? Like, we've spent this whole time as a manager in another job for a decade, or, like, I was a CrossFit coach for 9 years. Like, I thought my leadership would be there just because I knew how to coach people. Like, some of you guys are like teachers and nurses or nurse practitioners or coaches. Like, I'm not trying to call anybody out individually, but you got to understand, just because you were in a position that looked like leadership outside of Primerica does not correlate to leadership in Primerica. Does that make sense? Because the people at your job follow you because they have to. The people here follow you because they want to. Do you see the difference? They follow you here because you can take them somewhere. At their job, Angie, they follow you because you're their boss and they have to, or they don't get paid. Does that make sense? Like, so your job is to press on this blue line as aggressively as you can. Your job is to raise this up to get your earning capacity higher, because your earning capacity is only capped by your leadership level. It's not capped by your skill set. It's guys, this might sound contrary like to what you think it should. But guys, I've met people in Primerica. I'm trying to get out of this. What is happening? How do I get out of my thing? Let's see. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I've met people in Primerica, honestly, guys, that I was like, Angie, I've been like, there is no way that this guy makes 200 grand a year. Like, no chance. Like, no way this guy is making 200 grand a year. Like, listening to them talk, Taylor, am I wrong? Like, we go to these meetings sometimes and they're like $700,000 earner, blah, blah, blah. And they get up on stage and we're like, what? Like, this guy makes 700 grand a year? Are you serious? Like,
See how some of the women dress.
yeah, Taylor, so you should see how some of the women dress, or maybe don't dress would be a more appropriate way to, maybe that's why they're making 700 grand a year. But anyway, that's a different story, different profession. But anyway, guys, my point to all of that is Ellen's dying right now. My point to all of that is,
But you're talking about
like,
strings. Like,
yeah, like, she's talking about bathing suits. But anyway, my point to all of that, guys, is like, you are where you are because you haven't worked on yourself enough to get above where you are, right? Have you noticed that every time you left a job and you went somewhere else, maybe you made an extra couple grand a year, but you never really got that breakthrough you've been looking for? It's because your skill levels are not high enough for that yet, right? So here's like kind of the, like, if y'all listened to that Alex Hormozy podcast that I told you all to listen to yesterday, I'm sure you all did, because you're all very coachable, so I'm sure you did. But one of the things that I was talking about, or that he talks about, is skill set stacking. So like, let's think about it in the financial industry. So you go to school as a CPA and you graduate. Your only skill is you're a CPA. You're only good at taxes, right? You're good at that. That's about it. But then a couple years down the road, you figure out how to underwrite mortgages. So then you learn how to underwrite mortgages, and you find some similarities in so you underwrite mortgages, you find some similarities in the CPA sector, then you start getting your insurance and investment licenses. Now, all of a sudden, Angie, you can see market trends and you can relay that to your real estate people to help you invest. You can help them with their tax aversion in a down economy because you've learned a lot of other things. Then you start learning how to like do puts and calls. You start learning different things like banking. And now all of a sudden you're a CFO. You have the skill set of a CFO because you've stacked your skill sets. People think that like getting new skills is like 1 + 1 = 2, right? 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 is 4. No, 1 + 1 + 1 is 10 because you have so many skills that are undeniable that you are better where you are now because of that than where you were before. Not because you're not good at what you do now. Maybe you are an incredible leader now in your field, but you are not a good leader in a different field because you're only relatable to nurses. You're only relatable to people at a restaurant. You're only relatable to people that understand basketball or soccer, right? Like we have to expand our learning, guys. That's why like I'm an avid audiobook listener and podcast listener. I barely listen to music because I want to hear the here, you can put that in there. I want to hear the perspective of the single mom that is, the African-American single mom, no spouse in the city. And I also want to learn the married couple, they've been married forever. I want to learn both of those perspectives so I can relate to them and lead them. You see what I'm saying? Like people think like, oh, I just, you just wake up one day and you're a good leader. No, it's work, right? Like it's in my opinion, the leadership part of this business, guys, is harder than any other part of the business because
Am I the one he froze for?
No, he froze.
you have to take yourself to
There it is.
another level.
There he
You
is.
have to be willing to
Oh, maybe.
look at yourself and say, I am not where I think I should be or where I need to be.
This is bandwidth. Better if we don't do the video.
Can you all hear me?
Yep. Now we can.
Yeah, dude, I don't know what happened there, but my laptop's dying and not charging, which means I got to go finally buy that cord today, Kelly, that I was complaining about for like 3 weeks. Anyway, what I was saying, basically, all I was saying to end that was like, you're capped on your leadership level, guys. Like a lot of you guys like have big goals and big dreams, but we don't read a book ever. We never listen to podcasts. We're just out here just, watching the news every day and not getting better. Like you need to work on yourself more aggressively than anything else, because the number one return on investment that you're going to get is you becoming a better leader, you becoming a better coach, a better mom, a better dad. That's going to be your number one return on investment is you, because think about it. Like the concept of college makes sense. You are loaning money to yourself to get an education that's going to make you make more money in 4 or 5 years, and then you pay that off, right? But the problem is we have like, I don't know, stupid degrees that don't actually make money, and people go get that, right? Like it's the same kind of thing here, guys. Like right now, you're in a position with Primerica that a lot of you guys have decent leadership skills, to be honest. Like you do, like they're there, but we just don't do it enough. We don't practice it enough. We're exposed. We don't get enough reps, guys. How do you think that we've gone from where we are or from where we were to where we are so fast? It's because, Kelly, I told you, we've recruited 800 people. I think I figured out at least to a capacity, right? But you've recruited one and you're like, this guy didn't follow me. It's my fault. No, it's not your fault. You just don't have enough reps. Maybe it wasn't the right guy. Your sample size isn't big enough, right? So guys, we're not even halfway through the month yet. I know it looks like it on the calendar, but we're not even close to halfway through the month yet. Guys, we're going to do 75 by 40 this month. That's the goal, minimum 75 by 40. So we got to get after it, guys. I want you to type in the redemption Telegram chat. How many appointments will you set today? How many appointments are y'all going to set today? Everybody type Brad in the chat also, because I don't know if you all see Brad, but he's live, he's back on the call. But go put that in the